Hey y'all, and welcome to Politibrawl. My name is Brian, and Vivek Ramaswamy is doing what he does best, going on liberal and lefty media shows and absolutely wrecking them.
The one thing I will leave with you on this too, and you seem like I appreciate your reasoned approach here to having a conversation, something I don't always get, is if gender dysphoria is such a condition of suffering, and I believe it is, in the rare instances in which it occurs, why on earth are we now going out of our way to create more of it? By purposefully weaving in the possibilities for gender confusion at ages where literally, and there's good evidence to back this up, when there's one case of gender dysphoria in a school, it spreads. Like you could do the R squared math on this, right? It's like you could compare that to COVID, the spread of COVID, and you can epidemiologically model this stuff. Yes, this is actually having an effect that we're going out of our way to create a condition that we say creates more suffering. I'll give you one example in New Hampshire, where I travel frequently. The state just shot down a piece of legislation. All it said was, if a kid in school identifies as a gender different than their biological sex, the parent has a right to know. And over a lot of activism and opposition, they shot that bill down, which is odd because the whole premise is that kids are at heightened risk of suicide, in fact. And so a parent doesn't have the right to know if their kid's showing up in school with the condition that the whole premise for the movement was the kid is at higher risk of mental health condition or suicide. It says there's something else going on here.
The whole point of the legislation is to get these kids the help they need. They need help from their parents. And a New Hampshire government shot down that bill to help out these kids?
Yeah,
right,
we talked about one of those laws recently. I expressed the same concern, which is I understand the two forces here. The idea of we don't necessarily want to, quote, out a child that is not ready or maybe outed into an unsafe home environment on the one hand, the other side being exactly what you're saying. So I think all of these issues are more complicated than both
and David,
sides.
Before we rock and roll, not on this, but on just a synthesis of this conversation, I just feel, I'm on a mission to lead not a political party, but a nation. What frustrates me, and it does frustrate me, is that I see a lot of, and I know this world, man. Like I came from it, right? I graduated from the top of my class at Harvard. I've been through Yale Law School. I'm working at a hedge fund in New York. Like, let's just get real here. Like, I know you. We haven't met before, but I know you in some sense of the word, okay? Like, you're not unfamiliar to me. And what I see amongst even my peers, right, is a form of laziness. I think I'm saying this out of respect and not an attack, in a constructive way. I saw a little bit of it in the start of this conversation, right? Where you're going to be able to smoke out a version of that which can be caricatured, but these are our fellow citizens.
This is what help looks like. It's about telling the truth. And that's what Vivek is very good at doing. And that's what the left can't grasp. And he's going to prove that once again here in just a moment.
And their concerns come from a deep place where if you can do a better job of articulating and smoking out where that concern comes from, then we have an obligation to do it. And that's what gives me my motivation in this race, where people will say, somebody living 50 miles radius of where I am in central Ohio today and say, well, they say the First Amendment applies to tech companies. They're rubes because they don't know that that only applies to the government. Actually, to double click on that and say, you know what, there's something to that intuition. And it turns out if a private actors doing what the government actually implicitly goaded them to do, then the First Amendment does apply. In every instance, to be able to say that when there's something of value there, don't just sweep that under the rug and reject it, smoke it out, and then let's have that real debate.
And
with respect
that's
to the woke
a fair
or trans
point.
case, I'll do the same. I am doing the same.
Hey y'all, as we know, you don't put all your eggs into one basket, right? So that's why I'm partnering over with my friends at Colonial Metals Group, who will help diversify your portfolio. And what they'll do is they'll set up for you a self-directed IRA account. You'll have direct access to your assets. You'll be able to see what all's going on, and it doesn't matter what the stock market does or what often happens, what the government does. Your assets will be protected. So let the team of experts over at Colonial Metals Group help secure your account and your family's future today. There's a link in the description below. Oh, and by the way, if you don't like that, there's a 1-800 number you can call. And most importantly, though, is the kicker. They'll throw in a safe and possibly up to $10,000 in US silver to help you get things started. Now, back to regularly scheduled programming. Did y'all notice something? You saw what was briefly an intellectually honest leftist. This is a guy, I almost want to call him a kid. Turns out he's 40. This guy is wanting to have an honest conversation. But the moment Vivek correctly gives him some criticism, he freezes. He tenses up. And he changes. He does later recover his demeanor. But he gives this look like, how dare you? But with a question mark. It's a very lefty, non-masculine thing to do. Because you just got called out, and now you have to sort of retrace yourself, reorient yourself. That means that this guy does seem to care about the truth. But the moment that it hits him right where it hurts, he's willing to reject that truth. And so Vivek is coming to a point saying, look, do y'all really have compassion for these people, or do you just want to project the fact that you have compassion? Because the issues that come with the questions about trans identity, this is a legitimate conversation we need to have. This is something that Vivek is hitting on, and he's hitting on it correctly, and it's making this guy, his name's David Pakman, it's briefly breaking his mind. He does later come to the conclusion that, Vivek, you actually have a really good point here. I might need to sort of recalculate the way I value things. See, this guy doesn't seem like he's a deeply curious person, but he is showing some intuition. He is showing some ability. This is why I don't like painting all leftists as nuts. Sometimes I have to, because it can be the truth. But when you talk to a person at the individual level, when you're looking them right in the eye, you're getting some honesty there. Because there is something just more personal when you're having these honest conversations. And Vivek is great at this. His main strength is just going on lefty shows and dealing with their talking heads and kicking them in the teeth when they need it. But what he's also good at doing, one of his underrated skills, is just a simple conversation. We've seen this plenty of times when he was on the campaign trail. He would have the ability to talk down a protester and bring them back to the table. That tells me that these people do actually care about things. Obviously they do. You don't hold these values. You don't go to the left if you don't care about something. But they think they're protecting what essentially needs therapy. And that's why I say leftists, for the most part, are almost always based on trauma. And it's why the right, more often than not, is based on truth. It's literally facts over feelings in this issue. And it's possible. It is possible to have an honest conversation about difficult topics. And the moment you do, you realize that you actually have a common goal. That's what Vivek is fantastic at doing. It's his, I think, second great ability. And it was very interesting to watch him over and over on the campaign trail. Now, I'm not... the campaign trail's over, and I'm not exactly endorsing him for president. But I'm simply saying that we need something in this country. We need people that can have these honest conversations. David Pakman is capable of having this. We have seen these protesters have that ability. But it needs to happen more and more. So folks, my name is Brian. Hope you enjoyed this segment here on Politbro. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Catch you on the next one. And until then, y'all have a good one.